Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body
Hello,
in glitter.
hello. You are now tuned in to the A Little Bit a Lot podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and welcome back to another week. This week is so exciting because it is Brat week. Okay, and when I literally say Brat week, I quite literally mean Brat week. That is all that has been consuming my brain this week. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we are talking about Charli XCX's album that just dropped called Brat. And I want to just start off by saying it is a masterpiece. As soon as I listened to this album, I was literally astral projecting. I felt like I was floating. I truly felt like it was an outer body experience. And I'm not lying. Like, this album made me feel so many feelings and took me on a ride through so many emotions. It was so unexpected. And it's like, I immediately knew, like, I have to get into this on the podcast. So yeah, we're also gonna get into that. This week has also been an insanity. We've got Sabrina Carpenter dropping Please, Please, Please. We've got Ariana Grande with The Boy Is Mine music video and Jimmy Fallon performance. Like, we have got things to cover this week, all right? So let's get straight into it. But before we do that, you already know the drill. You guys got homework to do, preferably before you watch this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, I appreciate it. Welcome. Make sure you give this video a like, comment down below to let me know what your favorite song on the Brat album is, and subscribe. I'm so close to 300 subscribers. 80% of my viewers that watch aren't subscribed, so if you're one of them, I see you and I understand. It might be a little bit scary to join the gang, but trust me, once you hit that subscribe button, you won't regret it, babes. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, I appreciate you. Go ahead and click that follow button so you're staying up to date with every episode. Rate that 5 stars and leave a review to let me know what you thought about this episode. But yes, so with Brat, I just truly feel like this album needs to go down in history. So, speaking of history, let me tell you about my history when it comes to Miss Charli XCX. So, I have not really traditionally been a big Charli fan, and after listening to this album, I am filled with deep sorrow and regret about that fact. So now I have like so much lore to catch up on. And it's like, obviously, when it comes to pop culture, I've known about her for a long time. And I've been a fan of her, a lot of her big singles like Boom Clap. We all been there, you know what I'm saying, during the Fault in Our Stars era. I'm like, wow, she's so cute. We love her. Same thing when she came out, hit the scene, on that song with Iggy Azalea, Live, Laugh, Love, Charli. But then I feel like my Charli era didn't truly start until we got into that one song that was on the Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Is that what it's called? Hold on. Let me do my research before I get to talking crazy. Okay, yeah, it's Hot Girls, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. When this song came out, I was on this down. I'm a hot girl, a pop girl, rich girl. I was just like, you know what? What am I missing in my life? Charli XCX. And this song literally had me in a chokehold. And that's kind of what started the Charli frenzy. But I still didn't like dive into her music after that. But now that, I've had some of her songs on, my list, once we got this album coming out and she dropped 360, it was like, okay, yeah, like, why have I not been in to win it? You know what I mean? And I've talked about it on a previous episode. I think it was my favorite song of the week. 360 has like literally been on a repeat for weeks now. So that made me even more excited for the album. And I'm like, this needs to be my first Charli era. So yes, not proud of the fact that this is truly my first full fleshed out Charli era, but at the end of the day, it's, now or never. So I'm just glad to be here, y'all. So don't judge me. Yes, I'm a new fan, technically, you know what I mean? But I'm loving it so far. So 360 came out Excited for the album. We get into the album, and I just want to say that my initial thoughts after listening to the full body of work is the fact that I wrote down, I think that this album was so much more than I thought it would be. And the fact that she touches on so many topics is crazy. Like, this album is so vulnerable. She touches on topics ranging from girl friendships, romanticizing your life, grief from her friend passing away, insecurities about weight, competition with other girls in the industry, her place in the industry. For example, feeling like she's famous, yet not like super famous. Generational trauma, nostalgia, girlhood, the possibilities of motherhood, all while stressing the importance of celebrating yourself and reminding everyone that at the end of the day, she's that girl and she loves to party, you know? And I feel like this album truly just shows that there are so many sides to being a girl and the complexities that we face when it comes to society, jobs, being in the industry, navigating all of that, like, but also feeling like you got to get it all done because we're on a clock, is such a interesting and refreshing take for a pop star. Because at the end of the day, I feel like Charli XCX is a pop star. She's the pop star, in my opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, we all love Miss Ariana Grande, don't get me wrong. But, you know what I mean? Like, she's a pop star. So for her to tackle all of these topics, like I said, is just refreshing, So I just figured that I wanted to talk about my favorite songs and like why they're my favorite songs. So I'm not going to talk about every song. I think it's like I skipped like maybe 2 of them. I'm not 100% sure, like don't kill me. But we are going to obviously start off with 360. I feel like 360 is just such a good pop record. It literally just gives you I'm that girl, I'm the baddest type of energy. It's uplifting, and I feel like it kind of literally just makes you feel like free, fun. I just want to party, and it gives you that confidence. And I feel like it makes me feel the same way that Brat's music used to make me feel growing up. I talked about this on my podcast many, many times again, but growing up, listening to things like the Brat soundtrack or Cheetah Girls, where it's truly just giving like, have confidence, be okay with expressing yourself, like being you and uplifting yourself is like always been something that makes me feel good. So 360 literally takes the cake for me. And I love the fact that she chose that as the first song on the album. It's a great way to go into the album. Club Classics, another boppington. Okay, I love this song because, again, it's fun. She says, I just want to go to the club, I want to get sweaty, and I want to dance to my songs. I want to dance to my music. And loving the fact that she's like fully embracing, I feel like, her place in the industry and the stamp and impact that she's made on hyper pop. You know what I mean? I want to dance with George. Like, it's just like, it's everything. But Sympathy is a Knife, once that song came on, it was just like, girl. And the thing that kills me about Charli is like, she's able to talk about such complex topics, but also still making you dance and making you want to have fun. And then sometimes like I find myself like dancing to this album and I'm like, wait, but like this is kind of sad. And I feel like that's kind of like the whole point, like she's trying to make. Like, you want to be able to laugh through the pain and the sadness, because at the end of the day, like, life doesn't stop. You still have to try to make it fun, or else it's like sink or swim. You know what I mean? So with Sympathy is a Knife, I feel like this is like a really, really vulnerable song, because I think that it's, in my interpretation, I felt like it was being embarrassed about being insecure. And I feel like we've all been there, and like, the struggles of comparing yourself to other girls. where she has a line in here where she says, I don't want to share the space. I don't want to force a smile. This one girl taps my insecurities. And I think that that is so relatable because there are so many times where as a girl, you feel like you have to share your space. You have to force a smile and you have to keep it cute. But at the end of the day, like, we're only human and sometimes you don't always want to do that. And no matter how much you try, sometimes you are going to deal with being around someone who does tap into your insecurities, and you know that it's not a them problem, it's a you problem, and you can feel a little bit ashamed about that. But at the end of the day, it's like, we're human and sometimes you can't help it, you know? And she says, don't know if it's real or if I'm spiraling. One voice tells me that they laugh. George says I'm just paranoid. So you're just wondering, like, is this girl laughing at me? Does she want to be my friend? I don't really know. Says he just don't see it. He's so naive. I'm embarrassed to have it, but need the sympathy. Because I couldn't even be her if I tried. I'm opposite. I'm on the other side. I feel all these feelings I can't control. Like, it's so real. Like, she's just so real for this. That's all I can think about when I think about this song. Realness. Realness. I couldn't even be her if I tried. I'm embarrassed to have it, but need the sympathy. It's like comparing yourself to other people, like, it is an embarrassing feeling. It's not the best, you know? But I think the top song that actually might be my number one, and I thought nothing could top 360, is Everything is Romantic. Like, oh my God, I cannot get this song out of my head. Fall in love again and again, fall in love again and again. Like, it is literally on a loop, rent free in my head. And at this point, do I want it to get out? No, I want Everything is Romantic to be stuck in my brain and my subconscious forever. This song is so simple, but at the end of the day, so elegant. The production alone on this song takes the cake, in my opinion. And I think that it's so important because I think that when I listen to it, my first notes were, I think she's literally romanticizing life in this song. Everything is romantic, hence the title. She's romanticizing a trip that she went on, and she's describing the beautiful scenery. And I feel like it's a song that you want to listen to when you want to be thankful about the beauty of life. And it's like, it has this ethereal, fairy-like, dainty, you know, feminine energy where you're just like, yes, like, this is the moment that I worked so hard for. Like, this is what makes life beautiful. This is what makes love beautiful. Like, these sceneries, like, these opportunities that you can have after working so hard and struggling, and realizing that at the end of the day, like, everything is romantic if you make it. Like, I love this song. Then we have Rewind. This song is important to me because I feel like the message that she's also trying to relay here is like, you're yearning sometimes for nostalgia, and how being an adult, you sometimes wish that you could escape like the troubles of adulthood. You don't want to adult all the time, and sometimes you wish you could just go back to the more simpler days. And I think in this song, she's also talking about the fact that she wishes that she could rewind, like, even before she was famous, you know, like, at its core, when it's literally just giving girlhood. You're in your room, you're by yourself, and you're just like having fun with life. And that is so relatable because there's so many times where I literally wish the exact same thing. I wish that I could rewind and just go back to the days when I was just a young girl, didn't have to worry about bills, didn't have to worry about societal expectations. And I think that that's what she's like expressing in this song, because the line says, I go back into a time when I wasn't insecure, when I didn't overanalyze my face shape. Nowadays, I only eat at the good restaurants, but honestly, I'm always thinking about my weight. And I never used to feel embarrassed when I call up the paparazzi. Everyone else does it constantly. And I just hate these doubts that keep running through my mind. Sometimes I really think it would be cool to rewind. that paragraph alone, it's like, yes, same girl. Like, I wish I could go back to a time when I wasn't insecure. There's so many times where as a girl, you're just a human being, period, you are worried about your weight. Same thing when it comes to her being a celebrity. There are lots of celebrities who do call the paparazzi on themselves, but I could feel like if I were a celebrity, I would feel the same way as Charli, where it's like, dang, I do kind of feel embarrassed about calling the paparazzi right now. Like, ooh, like it feels like it is kind of a cringe type of situation. So I'm glad that she's being vulnerable in that way, because not a lot of pop stars like talk about that side in their music. And it's like, that just makes her feel that much more relatable, because it's like, same. If I was a celebrity, same, you know? And then it's like, once again, when you feel these feelings, sometimes you can get down on yourself for feeling the feelings. So her line where she says, I hate these doubts that keep running through my mind. Once again, same. Like, you are just like, why can't I stop having these negative thoughts? Like, I just hate them. I wish they would go away. And then the other verse, she says, I used to burn CDs full of songs I didn't know. Used to sit in my bedroom, putting polish on my toes. Recently, I've been thinking about a way simpler time. Sometimes I really think it would be cool to rewind. I used to never think about Billboard, but now I've started thinking again, wondering about whether I think I deserve commercial success. It's running through my mind. Sometimes I really think it would be cool to rewind. Like, yeah, take me back to the days. Burning CDs, just chilling in your room, putting polish on your toes. You don't really have too many worries about life. And once again, her tapping in to the celebrity of it all, where it's like, dang, I find myself worrying about Billboard and my place in the industry and my popularity, and do I even deserve commercial success? Like, it almost feels like, especially on this song, like we're just literally taking a peek into her journal. And I'm like, should I be here? Like, should I be listening to your innermost, like, personal thoughts right now? Like, that's how vulnerable this song feels to me. And then we have So I really, really like this song because it taps into the grief aspect that she brings onto the album. I don't know much about her friend Sophie that has passed, but I believe Sophie was a music producer and a collaborator, artist that she often worked with. And I think that there's so many different intricacies that she taps into when it comes to grief, where you go through that mourning period where you think about how great that person was, what a good impact they had. And I think that she's also talking about the fact that she wishes that she was a better friend too. And sometimes when people pass, you don't often hear about the regrets or the things that you wish you would have done, because it doesn't necessarily paint you in the best light. But I like the fact that she's not shying away from it, where it's like, yeah, like, you would invite me to dinner and I would just say no. And I, to be honest, did push you away a lot of the times. And I don't know why I did that, other than the fact that I was afraid. And I think that that's so real. Like, sometimes having someone who loves you and supports you in that way can be intimidating. And sometimes when you're going through what you're going through, a rough time, you can tend to push away the people that support you the most. So I think that, in my opinion, that's what she's tapping into with this song. And that's a reason why it's on my list for like a top tier song, just because like it's so sad, but at the end of the day, it's so raw, it's so real, and it's so vulnerable. She even wonders, like, would Sophie like this song, that I'm writing for you? And I love the fact that she also talks about how, like, it's okay to cry. And that can just feel like such a validating, line, I feel like, to people who are going through a grief journey. So if you've dealt with something like that, I feel like this song, So I, is really, really good to listen to. So I was just like, oh my God, like, she's got me crying in the club right now with this song. Like, kudos to her for putting this on here. I know that this song probably wasn't the easiest to record, let alone like put on the album for millions of people to hear. And another song that I really, really love is Girl So Confusing. First of all, I love the fact that she named it Girl So Confusing. Like, she could have just been like, so confusing to be a girl or something like that. But I feel like she just shortened it. And it's like, it's to the point, it's in your face. Girl, so confusing. And in my opinion, I think that this song just taps into the fact that girl friendship can be awkward. And it's almost like I think that she's singing about her attempt to be friends with someone that everyone thinks that she should hang out with. But when they do hang out, she's wondering, like, does this person even really actually like me? Are they actually rooting for me? That kind of makes me feel insecure because I'm not 100% certain about it. And I think also she's also feeling like, okay, well, everybody thinks that we should be friends, but we aren't clicking 100%. But at the end of the day, I know the girls would live down boots if we did music together. So like maybe we should, and I should just like push through, even though this connection doesn't feel like it's 100%, like it just feels like another song full of uncertainty. And I think that on one of her songs, sorry if you guys hear them cutting grass in the background, jeez. But I think that, dang, what was I even saying? I think I saw like on one of her TikToks, she talked about how everyone in the industry, and I would feel like girls in general, when it comes to like the workplace or school, like we are expected to get along, but at the same time, we're always pitted against each other and it's always like competitive.
I'm seeing online that some people think that there are diss tracks on Brat, and I just wanted to come on here and clarify that there aren't, apart from maybe Von Dutch, which kind of is, but the other tracks in question aren't diss tracks. They're really just about how it's so complicated being an artist, especially a female artist, where you are pitted against your peers but also expected to be best friends with every single person constantly, and if you're not, you're like deemed a bad feminist. And that to me is just like such a unrealistic expectation. So yeah, these songs are kind of about how, as a woman, as an artist, some days you can feel on top of the world, some days you can feel unbelievably insecure, other days you can feel highly competitive, sometimes you can feel like literal trash, and it's really emotional and it's complicated to deal with, and we're not supposed to talk about it, but these songs do talk about it.
And I think that song, like Girl So Confusing, taps into how complex navigating that can be, where it's like, okay, like I guess we're supposed to be friends, but this just doesn't feel 100% natural, and it's almost like you're just trying to like force something that you don't really want to force, and it can be exhausting. I also like Apple because I think that when you really think about Apple, this song taps into generational trauma. I think that this song is tapping into generational trauma passed down from parents, because when she says, I guess the apple don't fall far from the tree, and she has a line where she says, I think the apple's rotten right to the core from all the things passed down, from all the apples coming before. I split the apple down symmetrical lines, and what I find is kind of scary. Makes me want to just drive. There is a lot that could be said about this, and I think that a lot of artists don't even try to tap in to generational trauma in their music. So again, I think that's what makes this entire album so unique, because once again, it's banger after banger after banger with the topics that she is hitting. Like every song that I just named, it's talking about something that is so relatable. So when she says, I think the apple's rotten right to the core from all the things passed down, we're talking about generations, like toxic behaviors, like ideals that aren't really the greatest. And then she says, I split the apple down symmetrical lines, and what I find is kind of scary. And I think that that's also just speaking to the fact that sometimes when you really tap into what makes, family what they are, and you're like, why is my mom or dad this way, and why is their mom or dad that way, and you kind of like really try to look into the what, why, and how, like she said, what you find is kind of scary. And then you're like, ooh, actually, like, I don't really know if I want to break these generational curses. This just makes me want to drive. I just want to go to the airport. And if you guys have listened to my episode where I talked about going no contact with some of my family members, I feel like this song relates so much to that, because it's like sometimes when you are the one who's technically the black sheep and you are the one who's like, okay, this type of behavior is going to stop with me, and you're the only one in your family who's taking a second to analyze the generational trauma that has been passed down, and you see it, it is really scary. And at first you do want to just look away and run, because it's easier to like just keep doing it and not deal with it rather than like face it and be the one to make a change, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I feel like this song is a lot more complicated than it appears to be when you first listen to it. And then, of course, the song that I feel like is like the most vulnerable. I keep saying this, but it's like, dang, I feel like between I Think About It All the Time and this song might be the most vulnerable. Because I got this from Genius, but I Think About It All the Time reflects on Charli's thoughts and feelings about the future, especially regarding motherhood. And she shares her uncertainties and existential questions about when or if she should take that step in her life. It's a personal and introspective piece that explores her contemplation on the significant life choice. And in a Rolling Stone interview, Charli stated that this song was strongly inspired by one of her friends when she had a child. And she says that it was crazy seeing her standing in the same clothes that she's always worn, but now she has this completely different perspective on life than I do. And she's not enforcing that on me. It's just a fact. She's not alive for the same reasons that I am now. Am I less than a woman if I don't have a kid? Will I feel like I missed out on my purpose in life? I know we're not supposed to say that, but it's this biological and social programming. There's a lot of pressure on women to not talk about that stuff super openly, especially not in a pop music or in music generally. We're supposed to be sexy and free and fun and wild. My circumstance involves me making a decision and being like, I'm going to come off birth control. I'm not going to tour. I'm going to see what George wants to do. And then we're going to try for a baby. I feel like a kid. I don't feel like I can make that decision, but you have to make that decision because we have a clock. That is a quote from Charli. And that alone, once again, is so complex. Like, I think that there is a pressure for women in the industry to feel like, should I go and have a child? Like she said, should she stop her birth control? You really have a tricky balance of figuring out when is the right time to start your journey to motherhood versus continuing to put your career over everything. And I think that so many people struggle with this. Like, I am a big fan of WWE. If you watch my podcast, you know, and one of my favorites is Bianca Belair. And she's married to another WWE superstar named Montez Ford. And they had a TV show. And basically, I feel like the entire TV show was really focused on the idea of Bianca wanting to start her journey into motherhood, but also prioritizing her career because she's on top of the WWE roster right now. I mean, she was literally on the cover of WWE 2K24, the video game. Right now, she's a tag team champion with Jade Cargill. Like, she's in the best shape that she's ever been in her life. And she, like, I feel like is the face of the women's division alongside with Rhea Ripley. So she was really struggling with, if I do decide to have a child, what is that going to look like when it comes to being a wrestler? Because we're on the road a lot. She was talking to other mothers like Becky Lynch to figure out how do they navigate motherhood and being on the road. And she also was talking about what it would be like with her recovery time. Some women have children and they feel like their physical endurance is affected, so she's worried about that. And she also feels like she's also racing, like Charli mentioned, that biological clock. that is put on women, where you're like, I don't want to have a geriatric pregnancy, but at the same time, I still feel like I'm not ready. And I think that that pressure put on women in their 30s is crazy, because then sometimes it feels like you don't have a lot of time to figure this out. And it's really unfair that women are constantly expected to have to factor in all of these things, where I feel like for men, it doesn't really affect them in their career as much, in my opinion. So this song and her message that she shared on Rolling Stone really reminded me a lot about Bianca Belair, because she's going through the exact same thing, whether it's the entertainment industry with wrestling and sports or music. Like, it's very real. Same thing with Rihanna. I think she's kind of going through that right now, where she has prioritized motherhood and her business over her music career. And a lot of people felt the same way when it came to Cardi B, for example, when she first started having children, with her first pregnancy with Culture. A lot of people were really concerned and really worried, because they didn't know if this pregnancy and her having a child and starting a family was going to affect her momentum. Because at that time, Bodak Yellow was really popular, and she was gearing up to drop her first debut album, Invasion of Privacy. So people were really concerned about how that rollout was going to go and the aftermath. But at the end of the day, Cardi B was like, no, I'm still going to be able to be a mother and still going to continue to do what I need to do. But those are just examples of like people who have done it, with Cardi B or Rihanna, and they're figuring it out. But then there's some people like Bianca or Charli who feel like, I don't have it in me to do that yet. And that's 100% like totally their body, their choice. And it's not a decision that is supposed to be taken lightly. So that really, really got to me. I feel like, especially because like I'm now in my late 20s, like just turned 28 this year. And those are just things that you start thinking about, where you're like, okay, it even affects like your financial decisions. And you're like, okay, well, maybe now that I'm 28, like 2 years away from turning 30, I need to stop trying to go out to these concerts and do this and do that, because I need to start thinking about my future and, marriage and kids. And then there's that pressure where some, family members are asking, when are you going to start having kids? When are you going to get married? And it's like, listen, babes, I'm just trying to live my life. Like, I'm having fun with my podcast. I feel like I'm finally like breaking through like my trauma and healing when it comes to therapy. Like, the last thing I'm thinking about right now in this moment of time is like bringing somebody into this world when I'm still focused on me. And as a woman, I feel like you are allowed to be selfish in that way, because it's your choice. So I really, really appreciate Charli XCX for tackling such complex topics, being so raw, being so real in this way. Because like I said, motherhood, generational trauma, friendships, nostalgia, grief, like it is a lot. But at the same time, all of the songs are still gonna make you want to turn up in the club. Like, it is very hard to do all of that while still giving that like fun feeling. And she makes it look so easy when I know it probably isn't. So this just made my respect for Charli XCX like skyrocket. Like, I'm officially truly a fan. This album is literally going to take over the summer for me. So yes, and then of course we've got Ariana Grande. The Boy Is Mine music video, I feel like, was everything and more. Like, from the potion to her jumping from rooftop to rooftop. We've got Brandy, we've got Monica. And then on top of that, she also had the Jimmy Fallon performance. I'm sorry. This guy is standing right outside my window right now as I'm trying to record with this power tool. So annoying. Anyways, yeah, like I said, the Jimmy Fallon performance alone gagged me, because it's like, we all know that The Boy Is Mine is also kind of a play on the Brandy and Monica song. So when she did that performance, I feel like some of the like cadences that she changed were so fitting, where she's like, the boy is mine, like, oh my God. And I feel like, especially when it comes to like the aesthetic And the wardrobe, when it comes to The Boy Is Mine, is literally giving Catwoman, but is literally giving Dangerous Woman era. Like, oh my God. Like with the brown hair, the brown Babiana curled up in the back, with the gloves, the nails, like the lace detailing, but the black latex leather, like it eats. And then we've also got that one guy from the show You as the main like love interest in this music video. Like, chef's kiss. You guys know that Ariana Grande is my number one girly. So I am so glad that we got a music video for this, and I couldn't have asked for a better music video. And then as far as Sabrina Carpenter goes, the Please 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 song, I honestly feel like Don't Cancel Me. I love the music video more than I like the song, just because the music video, like, at the end of the day, like, Sabrina Carpenter's music videos are always going to eat down. They're literally always going to give you what you need to give. Like, it's always going to give, like, theater kid energy. I feel like she's going to give you acting. She's going to give you set design. She's going to give you budget, you know? Her boyfriend looked really cute in that video. And me and my boyfriend were watching it, and I'm like, looking him up, like, I don't know this guy. And then I find out that he was in Eternals, and I'm like, oh, like, I literally watched Eternals and don't remember him. And I think it's just because, like, Eternal, in my opinion, it wasn't really a memorable movie. I didn't really love it that much. But now that I think back at it, like, he did do good in that movie. But as far as, like, the song, it's like, I don't know, I feel like this truly feels like, I think it's obvious that she's trying to play into a different character with this song. She's trying to experiment with a slightly different sound. And I think that her intention with making this record was something where she was like, I want to do something a little bit different from my norm. Because I feel like Espresso kind of feels like her usual niche, where Please 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 feels like a complete 180. And then on top of that, it also has that slight country twang that I've seen a lot of people talk about on TikTok, and all the videos are so funny to me. But the twang, country twang of it all makes it feel so Dolly coded. Like, it makes it feel so Dolly Parton coded. And I'm like, wait, like, I'm kind of living for the Dolly vibe. You know what I mean? So I think that the song has to grow on me a little bit more, but I'm not saying that it's bad either. But it's not like I hasn't been on repeat the way that Espresso was when it first came out, you know? But I think that at the end of the day, like, just because it's not 100% like a song for me, I think that it's still a good record to have, because it adds that variety and that versatility where it's gonna work for other people, where that type of song might be like their jam, but it's just not mine 100%. But at the end of the day, like, it's still really good. Still, the production on it is great. And I think that the creativity when it comes to the melodies and the harmonies is there. So I can appreciate it for the art that it is. But I think that it just makes me even more excited to hear her album, because it's like, if you're giving us Espresso, but then turning 180 and doing Please Please Please, it's like, what are we going to get with this album? I think that it's like, her dropping this is almost like a message to just be like, you guys aren't going to be prepared, because I'm really going to be in my bag with trying out different things. I think that's maybe what she's telling us. I don't know. But yeah, so between Charli, Ariana Grande, and Sabrina, like, your girl has just been turned up. And then, of course, you know, we've got Bridgerton coming out the day that I'm filming this. What's today? The day that I'm filming this, Bridgerton comes out in 2 days. So I probably will do a Bridgerton part 2 reaction next week. So you guys stay tuned for that. And I'm also going to have an exciting episode where I talk about book talk, because you guys know that I've like been getting back into my reader girly era. So I'm really excited for that. So yeah. And also make sure you guys are tuning in to my other podcast. I've said it before. I have a second podcast called Not So Typical with my sister. You can find that linked on a playlist on my YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify or Apple, head over to the YouTube channel, or in my link tree, you can listen to that episode. We dropped episode 3 and really had fun recording that. Been loving that podcast, so make sure you support both. And yeah, like honestly, this Brat era just has me like so gagged, like it's literally taken over every single fiber of my being and my brain space, where it's like I don't even know if I can even think about anything else this week. But then Bridgerton's gonna come, and it's like that's going to consume my brain too. So I feel like it's just a great week overall to be a fangirl. So like I said at the beginning of the episode, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow the page on Spotify and Apple. Rate that 5 stars. Leave that review. And make sure you're following me on social media. I'm at A Little Bit A Lot Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Phone calls, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with y'all. Mini skirt on, take my